Well, this month marked 10 years since the U.S. government opened the prison at Guantanamo Bay, and 3 years since President Obama said he'd have it closed. It is, as we know, still open for business, with 171 detainees locked up there. The anniversary and also what we've learned goes on inside there over the years has caused many people to take a closer look at all the policies regarding suspects in the so-called global war on terror. There is one man who knows firsthand about some of these policies because he spent years working as a CIA interrogator. He served 23 years in the CIA, worked on 4 continents, including at U.S. black sites, places used to describe secret prisons that are off limits to human rights organizations like the Red Cross, where the most secret business is conducted. His name is Glenn Carl, and he's the only retired CIA spy who gives a detailed account of what happens with a specific case told in the story of a man he himself was told to interrogate, a man who he quickly realized was not the high-profile al-Qaeda operative he was believed to be. It's outlined in his book, The Interrogator, and Glenn Carl is with us tonight in our Los Angeles studios. Hey there, Glenn. Thanks for joining us. I want to start by just having you share what you can about this man who, in the book, you refer to as Cactus. Was he a terrorist?
Well, thank you for having me. Well, we certainly believed he was a terrorist. There had been a mountain of work done on him over years. We knew everything about the man, and the assessment was that he was one of the top half-dozen officers, senior people in al-Qaeda, and that's why we rendered him, which in this instance meant kidnapped him really off of the street. I found over a period of weeks, I was involved for about 3 months, that my assessment of him was starkly at odds with the assessment that the institution, the CIA, made, and that in fact he was not the committed jihadist or member of al-Qaeda that we had assessed him to be.
And again, as a retired CIA agent, I know that everything you write has to be cleared by Publications Review Board. You essentially don't have the same First Amendment rights that I do. I thought it was really interesting that when you submitted your book to the board, or when you got it back from the board and you submitted it for publication, you decided to keep in the book the parts you were forced to black out, rather than just cutting those portions. We're showing pictures of the book right now with those blacked out lines. Why did you decide to do this?
Well, it was a debate I had with the publisher, actually. I was concerned that it might distract the reader, and some readers have been distracted. They get stuck at a blacked-out passage. What all one needs to do is to jump over it and keep reading, and the narrative flows. They were kept in, however, to show the average citizen that the censorship of my book was quite extensive. The government legally, the CIA legally, has the mission to protect sources and methods from being revealed. That's a fine, legitimate task. I accept the importance of that. But they actually censored a poem by T.S. Eliot and a poem by Rudyard Kipling and a number of other things that were just foolish, clearly intended to break up the story and well beyond their purview. So we wanted the public to see the nonsense I had to contend with.
And again, I know that you can't give the name of the person or the specific region where this happened. There are a lot of theories out there about that where that might be and who it might be. But more, I want to talk specifically about some of these policies you were asked to use. From what I understand, these are policies that were at one time considered controversial and too tough. But under the George W. Bush administration, that changed. Some even considered too mild. Now, a lot of what you were asked to do became known to be enhanced interrogation measures. What exactly does this term mean, and to what extent do these techniques work?
Well, I refused to do them, frankly, and to the extent I had influence while I did, I stopped them from being used when I was able to. There are 2 kinds of enhanced interrogation measures. There are psychological and physical ones. They're all intended to do the following. The theory is that if you this is the term used, if you psychologically dislocate the detainee, then he will become more willing to share information and more able to, the interrogator will be more able to manipulate him to obtain the information. The way you do this psychological dislocation is by disorienting someone. Either physically, you can establish dominance and fear. These are measures that were defined as hitting or throwing him against the wall, things like that, physical measures. Then the psychological measures are much more, frankly, important and lasting and significant in use. And they play upon the 5 senses: sight, sound, hearing, taste, touch. And if you we all see the world through our senses and have a sense of ourselves from our senses. If you disorient those, very quickly a person loses a sense of who he is, where he is, and even how to interact with the world. That's not hard to do. It's a bad thing, and it doesn't work. It doesn't have anything to do with extracting intelligence. It does have to do with breaking someone down.
I think that's an important point, and I want to talk now about the larger implications of what you wrote about. Policies that are designed by the government that actually affect people, human beings, as well as the reputation of this country. Glenn, what is imperative that people know, based on your experience, about some of these policies?
Well, there are so many things. First of all, no one anywhere, but certainly no American official or no American citizen should even be having a debate about the merits of enhanced interrogation or torture. The fact that we are discussing this sometimes in supposedly rational terms is a sign of how far we have slid off the center of what it is to be an American citizen. America is the antithesis of abusing a detainee for any reason. One does not need to do it. First, it's wrong. Second, it doesn't work. It does not work. And third, it's un-American and has nothing to do with our values as a nation. So one should take that away. The only people who have been involved in these programs who have spoken out, there are 4. CIA officer, myself, an FBI officer, and 2 Air Force officers. All of us say the same things, and none of us know each other. And that is, these measures don't work, they're un-American, they're actually illegal, and they have nothing to do with what we should be doing as professional or as a society.
But Glenn, if they
if
they don't work, why is it such a widespread practice? I mean, I can only assume that there's so much more than I could possibly know about, but this is widely used.
Well, there are deep psychological reasons why people will try to impose their will, and a lot of it comes down to subconscious, frankly, efforts to dominate and establish control. A lot of the measures are designed to humiliate and put the person in a subordinate position. It's a power trip, frankly. It's not dissimilar to the motivations for many people in rape. Rape's not an act of love. Rape is an act of power projection and domination and humiliation, and in almost all instances. And certainly enhanced interrogation accomplishes that. It does not accomplish what it's supposed to do, which is obtain information. And I think people don't realize to what extent there's the domination, submissiveness, projection of power and strength behind all of this.
Here's something
It has nothing to do with what an interrogation should be.
Something I always wonder about. It seems normal and natural that intelligence agents could make mistakes. They get the wrong guy, they get the wrong facts. What do you think? Why is it necessary that, it's always assumed that they have the right person? These techniques are continually used even when it starts to become clear that there might be some holes in the case. I mean, I think that a person captured and tortured that is innocent may have quite a bit of incentive afterwards to be pretty angry.
Oh, anyone who's subjected to these things certainly has cause for anger. I think 2 points are important to make in response to your comment, though. To my knowledge, I believe it's true also that the Obama administration has formally repudiated and stopped the use of enhanced interrogation techniques. In fact, the first executive order of the Obama administration in the first day of its presidency was to stop all of these measures from being used. That's very important because they have been largely repudiated. Why does one persist in doing these when people who know what they're talking about firsthand oppose them all? I think there's the power issue and the issue that you touched upon in your comment, which is, gosh, I make 100 mistakes a day, professional and personal. So do you. We all do. That's not a problem. But if one can rectify an error that involves human lives, even if they are the enemy, it's your obligation to try to make right what you've gotten wrong. And to avoid embarrassment of individuals, of officers, and of policies, and in a sincere delusion of what needed to be done, a lot of this was just carried on.
As you say, Glenn, you're one of very few people who actually get into sort of the nitty-gritty of actually what goes on in some of these black sites inside the walls of some of these prisons. I'm wondering why you decided to write this book.
Oh, well, it's quite simple why, and it might sound corny, but it's not corny. It's really profound. I felt that this was my obligation and my duty as an American citizen. I was an official. I was a CIA officer. I was involved in secret programs of which few people know. And secrets have a legitimate place in the government. I have no problem with that. But when the program I was involved in as America's representative undermined the principles, the practices, the checks and balances, and the beliefs of American society and our government and our laws, and only I know about it. If I remain silent, I tacitly support it. And so it was my obligation to say, I can bear witness to what we have done to ourselves so that maybe we will get it right next time. That's why I wrote it.
Has anything, I know that
need to know this.
Your book...
I didn't break the laws and secrets. I was very careful to follow my obligations. But it's also my obligation as a citizen to say, wait a minute, we got